the US, some of our most holistic thinkers never make it to college, and that's the working class. And the working class are holistic thinkers largely because of their more interdependent values. They see how the environment and relationships influence their well being because they share resources. Asian cultures do tend to be more collectivistic as well, but I have never been to Asia and I haven't focused on that extensively in my research. I can give a Japanese example in another video, but all I can tell you about China is that for years, there have been several government leaders in the US who have talked about that China is investing more in education and we're not, and that this would become a problem for us. I'm Dr. Anna Kalschmidt. I'm an industrial organizational psychologist, and I research the unwritten rules of work for the working class and neurodivergence. And I've worked in federal and private sector spaces over the last decade. When I was contracting for an intelligence agency years ago, I was helping them hire data scientists because they had a hard time attracting and retaining data scientist talent because data scientists could make so much more money in the private sector. However, my client at the time was worried about how far along China was with that because they were like, we spent so much money and time on the war on terror, and the next war will be on cyber. I also remember when I was a kid hearing the president say, we have jobs in America, we don't have people with the qualifications to meet them. I'm not going to say which president because then people get their panties in a wad, but just think about that. That was decades ago. And then now we see the whole H-1B visa debate with Elon saying that we don't have people qualified enough to have people working in Silicon Valley. And that's why we have to bring in people on H-1B visa. A problem American education systems have is that they have always been exclusive. A lot of them started the original Ivy League with only allowed white dudes in, and they were eventually forced to let women and people of color in. Now, the unwritten rules of those institutions didn't change, as I've talked about in other videos. But now education is so expensive in America, egregiously expensive, that it is not accessible to most people who don't want to spend a lifetime in debt. I remember when one of my professors in undergrad, I was privileged enough to go to undergrad, told me that I should go to grad school. And I was like, no, I don't want to be one of those people. Because there's an association from the working class of education with like know it all, hoity toity elitism. And it's not necessarily incorrect because we have priced them out of education. So even though working class people tend to be more holistic thinkers, that doesn't mean they're necessarily educated. And that is a systemic issue. And that gap in education and the availability of people to be ready for these new industries within America was a national security concern years ago.